Now, today, Tom Mulcair has brought along an audio clip for us to enjoy for the whole class.
This is exciting.
So, Tom, we need some context here. What exactly is this?
You need a context and for me to explain why it's only in French, because it's François Legault going full bore on Carlos Letao and telling him that as a former finance minister, Letao, doesn't know anything, because Letao had suggested at the end of 2019 that we might be heading towards 5-6% inflation. And Legault, in his usual mocking tone, because, of course, if you haven't learned this by now, he knows everything, including the fact that, of course, inflation is never going to hit over 6%. This is one for the ages. It's a keeper. Just have a feeling we might see more of this clip during the election campaign.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can roll it, and
Let's
it's
listen in.
Legault mocking him.
Here you go.
Je sais que l'ancien ministre des Finances pense que l'inflation pourrait monter à 5-6%. Je ne sais pas sur quelle planète il vit.
Reverse
Zing.
burn.
I don't know what planet that man lives on if he thinks we could ever get to 5 or 6% inflation here. Fast forward a couple of years later, 0.7%, the highest that we've had in 40 years. So
wow.
Stay tuned, because the Brits are already at 11%, and we're heading into that territory as well. One of the things helping us is we, of course, produce most of our own oil and gas, which helps a little bit. Although when you go and fill your gas tank, I guess it doesn't help that much.
I wonder if they're going to dig up more of these clips now, as you said, as we get closer.
Yeah.
Find a whole bunch of this stuff, even go back to the 2018 debate during the election, or that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, and the other thing is, too, the tendency of Legault. I mean, you watch someone over a 4-year period, and I faced this guy for years when I was in opposition, and he was a freshly minted, star minister in the PQ government. Of course, he's not a separatist anymore. But we know that because he's told us so, even though he keeps hiring unrepentant separatists. But I digress. What happens with Legault is he's always the smarty pants. He always has to get in that little zinger. And that's the way he talks to everybody, especially to women who dare question him. So I have a feeling that we're going to be a little bit of this during the campaign, where people are going to go back through the stuff that he said over the past 4 years and measure it up against what's really happened. And I think it's going to be fun to watch.
Oh, he's going to love that.
Yeah, that won't bother him at all.
No, not a bit.
No.
Tom, we were just asking listeners earlier what they thought. Joe Biden has made this move to slash gas taxes in the States, and whether Canada should be trying to do something. Why aren't we doing something like this, or is there a better approach?
Well, it depends on how your gas taxes are done. For example, Quebec got rid of the escalator side, where your tax went up with the increase in cost, and it's a fixed cost per liter. So that doesn't hurt you as much, although you're still paying tons of taxes. The other thing is, of course, when Mr. Trudeau and Stephen Guilbeault, his environment minister, both approved the Bay du Nord offshore oil project, they said it's okay because we're going to offset it because we've got this amazing plan to reduce the use of fossil fuels. So how can you possibly have the plan to reduce the use of fossil fuels if you're actually making it cheaper to buy oil and gas? And that's the thing that they're stuck with right now. It's a bit of a conundrum. And it goes right to the other thing that was on the table today from the Parliamentary Budget Office. I don't know if you saw this one go by, but it's absolutely astonishing. The cost that was supposed to be in the $7 billion range, when the Canadian government, because they're so good at running businesses, they decided to buy a pipeline. They bought it from Kinder Morgan, and the guys down there are still lighting cigars with $100 bills, laughing over how they took the Canucks to the bank. Then they looked at the prices now, and it's going to be $21 billion before this thing is built and finished. Oh, and by the way, the Parliamentary Budget Office are saying even at the high prices, you're never going to make any money with this pipeline. It's always going to be a losing proposition. So anytime the government tells you that they've got a surefire way to make more money for you using your tax dollars, scream out loud, tell them no, they can't have any more, and make them stop doing things like buy pipelines, because they don't know anything about running business. Hey, they can't even deliver a passport. They don't know about running the government.
Well, so let me ask you this, though, because we got some rather interesting takes on this idea of a gas tax, as so many other countries have suspended them as well. Joe Biden is now going to ask Congress to do the same for 3 months in the U.S. At the end of the day, how much of this has to do with the Prime Minister or the Liberal government not wanting to have egg over their face, given the fact that, by virtue of this high price of gas, it's actually helping the environment because people are having to use public transit or not using their cars for non-essential reasons. Is that an important thing for them?
It is, but at the same time, tons of money is coming in as well. I mean, the high cost of a barrel of oil means tons of new revenue coming into the Canadian government, of course. And so this is all part and parcel of what they're going to be looking at when they decide whether or not they can actually afford to lower taxes. I don't see that in the cards, but I do know what is in the cards is that the opposition parties, starting with the Conservatives, and the Bloc is in on this one as well, are going to go headlong against Trudeau and use the inflation argument and the cost of living that comes with it, and of course say you've got to do something, knowing full well that it's almost impossible for Trudeau to act on the gas tax.
Okay. I have another question because I saw the Prime Minister waving today as he was about to board the aircraft heading out to Rwanda. He's so busy these days.
There's that song, Help Me Rwanda.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Help Me Rwanda. Let me ask you this, Tom. For those of us following the Russia-Ukraine situation right now, one of the things that's been overlooked, and I've seen a couple of reports on this, but it doesn't get a lot of mileage, is the fact that, Africa is suffering here because they obtain most of their wheat, as it turns out, from Ukraine. And that's something that the Ukrainians can't do right now because they're simply not able to. How is he going to convince, because I saw Vladimir Putin meet with one of the leaders not that long ago, maybe a week or two ago. How does he convince Africa to take the right side in this, the Ukrainian side in this, given the fact that they rely so much on the Russians allowing them to even continue to get their basic food stuff, which is wheat?
It's a key question, and that's why the war crimes are being alleged again against Russia for blocking the shipment of grain from Ukraine, of course, because that's exactly what they're doing. And these African countries, many of them are very close to Russia because historically they've developed ties, but so they abstained, for example, on resolutions condemning the Russian invasion. But now they're all looking at the fact that there's going to be food shortages, and Canada is going to be pushing them. But let's get back to the fact that Mr. Trudeau is going to this event. Now, these are important international events. Let's not kid ourselves. But where's Mr. Trudeau been for most of the months of June? Well, we know that he was laid up because he had to be in isolation because he got COVID again, and it looks like he's recovering well because he's able to now attend this type of conference. But he was in California with Biden and with the governor, and not taking anything away from that. And now he's going to be going to several different continents and all these big international meetings. Meanwhile, people are driving from Montreal to Chicoutimi to try to get a passport. The descriptions that we're getting of people, the hundreds and hundreds of people who are waiting in line, who are told that they'd be given tickets to come back and get their passports if they had a flight and so forth, it's just completely fallen through the floor. Minister Karina Gould questioned about this today on her way out of caucus in Ottawa. They asked her, well, how come you said this yesterday, that this was going to be in place and it's not? And she goes, I have no idea. I'll go phone one of the bosses in charge in Montreal. So you and I have talked about the situation in the airports, in particular Pearson Airport, what happened at Global Affairs when they sent a senior Canadian diplomat to have vodka and caviar with the Russians, because, of course, there's no problem with them, except for the fact that we've openly accused them of committing a genocide in Ukraine. So there seems to be nobody minding the store in Ottawa right now, and people are so frustrated. And for Mr. Trudeau, when people can't travel because of the ineptitude of his government in terms of administration, he hops on his own government plane and just takes off. Again, not taking anything away from the importance of these meetings, but at some point, somebody's got to connect those two dots for him and say, boss, you either fix the passport problem or you stay home saying you're fixing it, because you can't be seen to be hopping on a plane and scooting out of town. It just doesn't work.
I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. The visual is not great in terms of the message it sends. Now, in terms of sending a message by creating a new embassy, a new Canadian embassy in Rwanda, Melanie Joly is describing that as strategic, right? How important is that?
It is strategic, and it's important for Canada to get back to have relations. And Lord knows that Rwanda has been through so much in the past years that it's important for Canada to be putting the flag down there. Great historical relationship, of course, between Canada and Africa and many of the, in particular, Francophone African countries that was dismantled largely under Stephen Harper's Conservatives. So they're doing the right thing to rebuild those relationships. Again, you'd be hard-pressed to find a country that more important than Rwanda for Canada's future in Africa. So Jolie is completely on the right path on that one.
Tom, we're out of time, and I want to just bring this up. We'll talk about it tomorrow because we can't now. I want you to comment on this peace and options policy.
It's wild.
Which simply says that the headline is the one that catches your eye, which says French-speaking Quebecers feel that they are looked down on by English-speaking Canadians, and this feeling is at an all-time high. So keep that in your hat. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who are putting that in their commentary pieces in writing here in Montreal, and people pick up on it. But I always ask for evidence. It's usually not forthcoming. So, we'll talk about it tomorrow.